What if everything you were told about Crimea was incomplete? What if secret Kremlin archives tell a different story? Today, leaked files are shaking global politics. Governments are silent. Experts are stunned. And the world is asking one question. What did the Kremlin know all along? Stay with us, because this revelation changes everything. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are covering a story that is sending shockwaves across global politics. An explosive Kremlin archive has reportedly surfaced. These documents are raising shocking questions about Crimea. For years, Crimea has remained one of the most sensitive flashpoints in international relations. Governments have issued statements. Media narratives have shifted. But archives often tell stories politicians avoid. According to multiple analysts, these leaked files originate from historical state records. They allegedly outline administrative decisions from earlier eras. These decisions contradict public messaging used for decades. While officials have not fully confirmed the document's authenticity, the reaction has been intense. Silence from Moscow has only fueled speculation. Western intelligence agencies are reportedly reviewing the material carefully. Meanwhile, social media is flooded with theories, interpretations, and heated debate. What makes this archive explosive is not a single sentence. It is the pattern across multiple documents. Maps, memos, and internal correspondence appear to challenge long-held assumptions. This does not immediately change borders, but it changes narratives, and narratives shape policy. Experts warn viewers to remain cautious. Leaks can be selective. Context matters. But history also matters. If these records are genuine, they reveal how complex the Crimea issue truly is. This story is still developing, and in the next section we will explain where these documents came from, and why they are emerging now. Section 2 focuses on the origin of the leaked Kremlin archive, and why its timing matters so much today. Reports suggest the documents were stored inside regional administrative repositories rather than high-security vaults. This detail is important because it explains how older files can quietly resurface without immediate detection. According to researchers, these archives were often overlooked during digital modernization efforts. Paper records, microfilms, and hand-signed memos remained boxed and uncatalogued for decades. Sources claim a recent internal audit triggered the unexpected discovery. Once reviewed, historians immediately noticed inconsistencies with official narratives. The timing is critical because geopolitical tensions are already high. Any historical contradiction now carries far greater impact. Analysts believe the leak was not accidental. They suspect internal disagreements or strategic signaling. No matter the motive, the release has already reshaped discussion worldwide. Newsrooms are revisiting old assumptions. Diplomats are recalculating language. Viewers should understand that history often returns when ignored. In the next section, we examine what these documents actually say. Their wording, structure, and classification reveal more than headlines suggest. Context, translation, and framing will be crucial. Misreading them could distort public understanding. Careful analysis is essential before drawing conclusions. That analysis begins next. Stay focused as we break down the most controversial passages step by step. Every word matters here today, now globally. Section 3 examines the most controversial content inside the leaked Kremlin archive. According to analysts, several documents stand out immediately. These include internal memos, draft maps, and administrative language rarely shown publicly. One memo reportedly discusses Crimea using terminology inconsistent with modern official statements. Instead of political slogans, the language is technical and bureaucratic. This suggests routine governance rather than ideological messaging. Another document references jurisdictional adjustments during earlier administrative reforms. Historians note this wording is significant. It implies Crimea was treated differently than current narratives suggest. Maps included in the archive are equally striking. They display boundary markings, annotations, and approval stamps. Such details are difficult to fabricate convincingly. Experts emphasize that archives often reveal intentions more clearly than speeches. Public statements aim to persuade. Internal documents aim to organize. That distinction matters here. However, specialists also warn against overinterpretation. Documents reflect their time, context, and constraints. They do not automatically define present-day legal reality. Still, the consistency across multiple records raises serious questions. Why was this language used internally? Why do these classifications differ from later public positions? And why are these records emerging now? These unanswered questions fuel global debate. In the next section, we explore how governments and institutions are reacting. Their responses may reveal as much as the documents themselves. Section 4 looks at the international reaction following the emergence of these Kremlin archive documents. Governments responded cautiously within hours. Official statements avoided direct confirmation or denial. This silence itself became a message. Western officials emphasized the need for verification. They urged patience and restraint. Behind-the-scenes intelligence agencies reportedly began cross-checking the materials. Diplomatic sources say the documents are being compared with existing historical records. This process takes time, but early indicators suggest the files cannot be dismissed easily. International media outlets adjusted their coverage tone. Headlines shifted from certainty to analysis. Experts were invited to explain historical context. This signaled the seriousness of the situation. Ukraine officially welcomed any historical clarity. However, it avoided declaring conclusions. European leaders focused on stability. They stressed that history should inform dialogue, not escalate conflict. Russia maintained a reserved posture. State media downplayed the issue. No formal rebuttal was issued immediately. Analysts interpret this delay as strategic. Rapid denial can legitimize leaks. Waiting allows narrative control. Public reaction was intense. Online discussions exploded across platforms. Supporters, critics, and neutral observers debated interpretations. This moment highlights how powerful archives can be. They force governments to respond carefully. They reshape conversations without firing a single shot. In the next section, we will explore why archives matter so deeply in geopolitical conflicts. Section 5 explains why historical archives play such a powerful role in modern geopolitical conflicts. Archives are not created for public persuasion. They are created for internal use. That is why governments often fear them. Unlike speeches, archives show how decisions were actually made. They reveal uncertainty, compromise, and administrative logic. In conflicts like Crimea, narratives are weapons. Each side promotes a version of history that supports its position. Archives can disrupt those narratives instantly. This is why their release is so sensitive. Experts say even partial documents can shift global perception. They introduce doubt where certainty once existed. That doubt forces policymakers to adjust tone and strategy. Historical records also influence legal arguments. International courts rely heavily on documented administrative practice. Maps, decrees, and internal correspondence matter. Even if borders do not change immediately, long-term consequences can follow. Another reason archives matter is credibility. Fabricated stories collapse under scrutiny. Authentic records endure. That endurance gives them power. Viewers should also understand that archives rarely tell a single story. They present fragments. Interpreting them requires caution, expertise, and context. Misuse can inflame tensions. Responsible analysis can promote understanding. That balance is critical now. As this story evolves, archives are shaping discussion more than missiles or sanctions. In the next section, we will examine how this revelation could impact future diplomacy. Section 6 explores how these revelations could influence future diplomacy and negotiations. Diplomacy is built on language, trust, and shared understanding. When historical documents challenge official narratives, diplomats must adjust carefully. No government wants to appear uninformed or dishonest. That is why archives can quietly change negotiating positions. Experts say future talks may now reference historical context more openly. Even indirect acknowledgement can reshape discussions. Countries may choose softer wording. They may avoid absolute claims. This creates space for dialogue. At the same time, archives can harden positions. Some actors may feel threatened by reinterpretation of history. They may double down on existing narratives. This tension is common in long-running disputes. Another impact involves international mediators. Neutral parties rely on credible records to propose solutions. If archives alter perceived legitimacy, mediators gain new tools. They can suggest frameworks grounded in documented practice. This does not mean immediate change. Diplomacy moves slowly, but momentum matters. Public opinion also influences diplomacy. When citizens see historical complexity, pressure increases on leaders. They demand explanations. They question past messaging. This accountability affects decision-making. In this case, even the possibility of archival credibility matters. It signals that history is not closed. As discussions continue, these documents may quietly shape the future. In the next section, we will examine the risks of misinformation and selective leaks. Section 7 addresses the serious risks of misinformation and selective interpretation surrounding leaked archives. Not every document tells the full story. Some leaks highlight specific details while ignoring others. This creates imbalance. Experts warn that selective release can mislead audiences. Even authentic documents can be framed inaccurately. Context matters deeply in historical analysis. Dates, authors, and administrative purpose must be examined. Without this scrutiny, conclusions become unreliable. Social media accelerates this problem. Short clips, headlines, and images spread faster than careful explanations. Once a narrative takes hold, it becomes difficult to correct. That is why responsible reporting is essential. Another risk involves fabricated editions. In past conflicts, false pages were mixed with real archives. This tactic creates confusion and distrust. Viewers should remain cautious and critical. Reliable verification comes from cross-referencing multiple sources. Historians, linguists, and archivists all play a role. Governments also exploit confusion. They may dismiss everything as fake, or selectively endorse favorable interpretations. Both strategies distort reality. The goal should not be immediate judgment. The goal should be understanding. This moment reminds us that truth is rarely simple. Archives illuminate complexity. They demand patience. In the next section, we explore how media framing influences public perception of this story. Section 8 examines the role of media framing in shaping public perception of the Kremlin archive leak. Media outlets choose which details to emphasize. Headlines, images, and video clips all guide audience attention. When coverage focuses on shocking secrets or explosive revelations, curiosity spikes. This is effective for engagement but can exaggerate significance. Analysts note that subtle framing choices influence belief formation. For example, emphasizing historical discrepancies may create doubt. Highlighting geopolitical tension can amplify fear or concern. Even language choice matters. Terms like finally exposed or world stunned trigger emotional responses. Social media platforms amplify these effects. Algorithms prioritize sensational content. As a result, interpretations often outpace careful analysis. Responsible media combines intrigue with context. Fact checks, document excerpts, and expert commentary provide balance. Audiences should approach sensational claims critically. Historical documents are nuanced. One page cannot summarize decades of administrative decisions. Experts urge that viewers distinguish between headline drama and archival reality. This framing challenge is common in geopolitics. Every story competes for attention, but understanding requires more than clicks. Educated audiences look beyond excitement. They consider source, context, and implication. As we move to the next section, we will explore the potential impact on global public opinion. This impact may be more lasting than immediate political reactions. Section 9 explores the potential impact of the Kremlin archive revelations on global public opinion. When historical documents emerge, they influence how citizens perceive governments, leaders, and past events. In the case of Crimea, the leak has triggered intense discussion across multiple countries. Online forums, news comment sections, and social media are filled with debates and speculation. People question previous narratives and demand clarity. This public scrutiny can pressure governments to respond carefully. Even if officials cannot immediately alter policy, perception matters. Historians note that public opinion often shapes diplomatic strategy indirectly. When citizens are convinced of certain interpretations, leaders adjust messaging and tone. Media coverage also plays a critical role. How journalists present the archives impacts trust and credibility. Balanced reporting encourages informed discussion. Sensationalized headlines risk polarizing audiences. Another factor is educational value. Leaked archives allow the public to engage with historical complexity directly. They reveal how decisions were made, what constraints existed, and what alternatives were considered. This understanding fosters critical thinking. However, misinformation risks remain. False or exaggerated claims can spread quickly, shaping opinion inaccurately. Experts emphasize that responsible engagement requires cross-checking sources. Ultimately, these revelations demonstrate the power of archives beyond governmental circles. They influence not only diplomats, but also everyday citizens. Public perception is a force that can guide policy indirectly. In the next and final section, we will summarize the implications and provide actionable takeaways. Section 10 concludes our analysis and provides actionable takeaways from the Kremlin archive revelations. These documents are shaping understanding of Crimea in unprecedented ways. First, they highlight the importance of historical context in geopolitics. Decisions made decades ago still influence modern policy and perception. Second, they demonstrate the power of archives to challenge established narratives. Even if borders remain unchanged, public discourse shifts. Third, the leak underscores the need for careful analysis. Experts warn against jumping to conclusions based on selective documents. Verification, context, and cross-referencing remain essential. Fourth, media framing matters immensely. How journalists present these findings can either inform or mislead audiences. Balanced reporting ensures the public can engage critically. Fifth, public perception is powerful. Citizens' understanding influences diplomatic strategies and international responses indirectly. Sixth, digital platforms amplify both insight and misinformation. Awareness of this dynamic is critical for responsible consumption. Seventh, ongoing monitoring is essential. Archives may continue to surface, each adding pieces to the historical puzzle. Eighth, lessons extend beyond Crimea. Similar dynamics exist in other territorial disputes worldwide. Ninth, patience is vital. Understanding history and its impact on current events takes time. Finally, viewers should engage critically, seek credible sources, and remain informed. This story is still unfolding. By staying attentive, we can better grasp the complex forces shaping Crimea and global politics. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on breaking geopolitical revelations.